Hi everyone, Paul here from familywheels.ca with another car review for your growing family. And if I'm looking just a little scruffier than usual, or my backdrop's looking a little snowier than usual, that's because I'm fresh back from a 7-day backcountry ski trip out at Sorcerer Lodge in the Selkirk Mountains of British Columbia. You fly in by helicopter, you're left there for the week to your own devices to find some of the best powder lines in the world. Heck of a week. And we got out here in the new Motor Trend Truck of the Year. For 2017, it's the Ford Super Duty. And it's no surprise that it got that tip of the hat, because for the first time ever, the Super Duty has had a complete redesign for 2017. And they've really checked a lot of important boxes here. It's become more efficient. It's become much lighter. The same sort of aluminum features that we've seen in the F-150 for a while now. It's also got better payload capacity and better towing capacity. And when you step inside, it really does feel a lot more refined and much more car-like as well. That's the thing about a Super Duty pickup truck. A lot of times people are in the trades, they need a bigger truck, maybe they have a big trailer, yet you still want to be able to haul your family around in this thing when you're going on road trips, or maybe even for a trip to the swimming pool. We'll see how it stacks up. That's this week here on Family Wheels. Yeah, so it's been a little bit of a long haul drive here to get out to that lodge, and now I'm on my way back home again, and it's really given me a good sense for how excellent the interior here is in this vehicle. It's very quiet at 68 decibels on our decibel reader at 100 kilometers an hour. That's really impressive for a vehicle that's got a great big, in this case, diesel engine on board. I have to say, it's the nicest interior I've ever seen in a heavy duty pickup truck before, and that's coming from someone who's owned a couple of GMC Sierras over the years as well, and the 1-ton category. It's also nicely laid out. Big chunky buttons throughout the cab. I mean, you don't have to take your gloves off to play around with the volume or adjust the climate control, that sort of thing. The infotainment system's been upgraded to the new Sync 3 system from Ford, which is so much better than the previous generation. I love the seats in this vehicle too. They kind of remind me of the zero gravity seats that Nissan has put in its new 2017 Titan that we reviewed a few months ago. Really excellent for big, long drives. But this better be a pretty well laid out interior and pretty comfortable as well, because this truck, as spec'd out as it is this week, comes in at just under $94,500, and that makes it the second most expensive vehicle we've ever tested at Family Wheels, just behind the Audi Q7. People love to put a lot of stuff into their pickup trucks because they put a lot of miles on them and they want to be comfortable and have the bells and whistles. But let's compare this trim that we're driving around this week to the base trim of the F250 and F350. You can get into an F250 with a 6.2 liter gasoline powered V8 on board for about $38,000, and the F350 with the same engine comes in at about 40 grand. But you're getting 4x2, you're getting a bench seat, you're getting vinyl floors, and you're getting an AM/FM radio, and that's about it. Whereas here in this Lariat that we're driving around this week, which is not the top trim, by the way, you can also get into a platinum trim. We've got all kinds of options. Let me run down the list for you and let me show you what I'm talking about. First up is the 6.7 liter Power Stroke diesel V8. That's a $10,000 option that gives you 440 horsepower and just ridiculous amounts of torque, 925 foot-pounds of them, in fact. Next up is the Chrome package at $1,350, you know, kind of blinging out this truck a little bit. Then we've got the off-road package. We've got power running boards, which I'm not crazy about. I talked about this with the F-150 that we were driving around over the summer as well. They look great because they fold up into the vehicle. It means that it gives the truck a nice clean line as you're driving it along the road. But if you're driving it onto the job site all the time, or if you're on mucky winter roads, because they're right underneath the truck, they tend to get really mucky and muddy and yucky, and it means that when they do fold out and you use it to step up into the truck, which you really need, by the way, because this is a very tall vehicle, then your feet are all dirty because they've been sitting underneath the vehicle all this time. Another thing I don't like about these running boards, by the way, is the fact that they don't run all the way back behind the cab to the back of the box, because if you want to grab something from the back of the vehicle, it's nice to have those extend just a little bit further so that you can actually access things in such a tall truck like this. Another option that we have on board here is adaptive cruise control at $1,500. and it's way more predictable in this truck than it was in that F-150 we had over the summer. In fact, that F-150 seemed to have something wrong with it, because the adaptive cruise control in that truck would suddenly break, it would lurch, and it was very unpredictable. In fact, I turned it off because it was kind of a scary experience trying to use it. Not a problem here in this F350. Another option that I would highly recommend if you do a lot of nighttime driving are these quad beam LED headlamps. It's a $1,200 option, but man, are they good at lighting up the road. And we also have auto high beams here on this tester, which means that if you're driving along at night, you've got your high beams on, and a vehicle is coming toward you, the high beams will actually turn off automatically and then flip right back on as soon as you've passed that vehicle. It's kind of a nice thing to have. It just takes the pain out of always having to flip your high beams on and off. But the most expensive option by far that we've got here in this tester is the Lariat Ultimate package. It gives you navigation, it gives you remote start, and this huge twin panel moonroof as well. I was disappointed not to see remote start and navigation standard on more trims of this truck. It seems kind of chintzy that you wouldn't have those on lower level trims of this vehicle too, like the XLT for example. It'd be nice to see that some more standard features come out on this truck. One configuration I was really happy to see in this vehicle though, because I've heard from a bunch of tradespeople on the channel who've complained about this with other trucks, is that you can get the 6 3/4 foot box or the 8 foot box with the crew cab. If you've got a family but you need to have places to throw all your gear as well, a lot of people want that longer 8 foot box, but sometimes you can't get that with a crew cab, which means that it's kind of tight for families when you've just got the extended cab or even say the regular cab. And the second row in this truck is amazingly comfortable. Another thing I really like about the second row in the Super Duty in the crew cab is that the seats can fold right up really easily and expose a completely flat load floor. So you've got great room for the family dog, great room for all kinds of gear, maybe tools that you don't want to leave right in the back of your box if you're going off to the job site. Some really clever little touches there in the second row, and it's also very comfortable back there. Here in the crew cab, car seats are a total non-issue as well, both front and rear facing. I've tested out both, and there's still plenty of room up front for the front passengers. So given where I was heading this week, deep into the mountains on snowy roads in the middle of winter, I've had a chance to see how this truck does perform in the snow, and pickup trucks generally aren't very good. This one is just as bad. Even in four-wheel drive on snowy back roads, I was slipping out a fair bit. And then when I got onto the highway, even just a skiff of snow on the highway in too high, this truck would slide around, particularly under acceleration. The traction control was coming on more than I'd like, and it felt pretty squirrely. If you're looking for a winter driving truck, you certainly want to have some pretty high quality winter tires on this vehicle, because it doesn't really inspire a lot of confidence once you get snowy roads. Chances are, if you're buying a truck like this, it's because you're going to put it under load. And this truck has some pretty impressive best-in-class features, including towing, payload capacity, horsepower, and efficiency. This week, in this diesel engine that we've got on board, I've averaged about 14.5 liters per 100 kilometers on more mountain highways than city roads. On the city roads, I was averaging more like 17.5 liters per 100 kilometers. That doesn't seem great, but ultimately, when you think about just how capable this truck is and how heavy it is with this great big diesel on board as well, it's not that bad. It's actually very respectable, and it does give you best-in-class efficiency. But the numbers that are most going to impress you about the Super Duty truck are its improvements to payload and towing capacities. In this F350, you can now tow up to 21,000 pounds of conventional towing right off the tongue, or if you've got a gooseneck hitch, you can tow up to 32,000 pounds, and that's conventional single rear wheel vehicle, by the way, not a dually. And then when we look at the payload capacity, you can put 4,200 pounds into the box of the F250. That's the 3/4 ton version of this truck. That's a pretty sizable truck camper. Then when we bump it up to the F350, you can put over 4,800 pounds in the box. And if you want to get absolutely crazy, if you've got a huge welding rig or a massive truck camper, you can put up to 7,600 pounds into the dual rear wheel version of this F350 truck. And if you are towing a lot, Ford has come up with a lot of clever features for making it a little less stressful here in the Super Duty. First up is the blind spot monitoring system, which is optional. It doesn't just extend for the length of the vehicle anymore, but also can include the length of your trailer. Once you've plugged it in, there are monitors in the tail lights, which will include your trailer. So if you go to make a lane change and someone's sitting there next to your trailer and you can't see them in your blind spot, you'll get a warning. Other cool little features include, once you've plugged your trailer in, you've got tire pressure monitoring systems built right into the vehicle to make sure that the trailer has good tire pressures, as well as light monitoring systems so you know whether you've blown out a brake light or something like that on your trailer. Other things that are great about this vehicle for towing include 7 possible cameras that are available to you in this truck. Not just out front, which gives you a 180-degree sweep for, say, pulling out of a driveway. This is such a tall truck, it's nice to have that. But also out of the back. There's a camera built into the tailgate, which makes it easier to connect your trailer hitch. There's also a camera that's optional that's built right into the box. So if you've got a big gooseneck hitch and you're backing up, it's going to make it a little bit easier to line things up on your own if you don't have a second person keeping an eye out for you. Other little things that are kind of cool here for towing include these great big towing mirrors, which you're going to need when you're towing a great big trailer. Here in the Lariat trim, there's a button right here that actually put the mirrors in and out, extend them to wherever you need them, so you don't have to, adjust them from the outside. As well, these mirrors can fold in for when you're getting into a really tight parking space automatically, again, by the touch of a button. And that's an important thing here to mention with this great big F350. I've already talked about how tall it is. I have had a hard time parking it in parkades this week because it is so tall, but it's also just kind of tricky to park into a conventional parking space, and all these different cameras all around the vehicle just make it a little bit easier. Well, the bar just continues to be raised here in the heavy-duty pickup truck segment, and Ford has done a remarkable job of finding best-in-class fuel efficiency and then coupling that with never-before-seen payload and towing capacities. This is a real marvel of engineering, this truck, and once you hop on board, it's remarkably quiet here in the cabin. It's remarkably refined, but still, don't kid yourself. This is still very much a great big, bulky pickup truck. It kind of feels rather harsh when you're driving it down the road. The suspension is pretty tough. So my suggestion is, if you don't need something this big, then consider looking at, say, the Ford F-150, because it's become more capable than ever as well. A lot of half-ton trucks are doing a really good job of towing and payload capacities these days as well, and it gives you a slightly more everyday vehicle, a bit more of a car-like ride as well. But I'd like to know what your thoughts are on this vehicle. How do you think it compares to the competition? What would you like to see changed in the redesign? You can leave a comment below. Please subscribe while you're at it. I'll see you in 7 days from now in the new Subaru Impreza, certainly a much smaller, maybe a bit more family-oriented vehicle. We'll let you know how that one stacks up to all of our tests. That's in about 7 days from now. Until then, have a great week.